On Tuesday, Brian Stelter was trending on Twitter again for the usual reason, thousands of people making fun of him, and it turns out that he was invited by the prestigious World Economic Forum to host a panel discussion on the dangers of disinformation.
The clear and present danger of disinformation is our conversation here this afternoon. It follows the session just now about disrupting distrust, and of course those are connected, so I hope that's where we can start. I'm Brian Stelter, formerly of CNN, now a fellow at Harvard University.
Well, a good place to start addressing disinformation would be your former employer, CNN, one of the biggest sources of it on the entire internet. They've published so many fake news stories over the years, it's hard to tell some of them from the Babylon Bee satire website, like this one from 2018. Trump props up false claim that big tech is out to silence conservatives.
Maybe talk from the newsroom and the news publication perspective, and then we'll work our way toward some of the political parts of the conversation. How does this discussion of disinformation relate to everything else happening here today in Davos?
I'll answer this one, Brian. Maybe it's because the World Economic Forum is an elite consensus-building conglomerate trying to finalize the New World Order, which they said then will cause people to own nothing, but they'll still be happy because everyone will be plugged into the metaverse and popping their prescription antidepressants. And anybody who exposes or opposes what the Bilderberg Group's frontmen are doing gets shadow banned, demonetized, demonized, and undermined by the liberal media industrial complex. During his panel, the European Commission Vice President made this anti-free speech prediction, or rather, I guess, promotion, with zero pushback from little Brian.
Well, we need the people who understand the language and the case law in the country. Because what qualifies as hate speech, as illegal hate speech, which you will have soon also in the US. I think that we have a strong reason why we have this in the criminal law. We need the platforms to simply work with the language and to identify such cases. The AI would be too dangerous.
What she meant there about AI being dangerous wasn't that its creation or existence may be dangerous, which it very well may be. She meant that it's dangerous to rely on AI instead of human moderators to censor speech that liberals hate from the big tech platforms. I'll do a video on ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence text generating software, another time. I've been playing with the software and putting together an outline, but that deserves a whole video in and of itself. Another one of his panelists was some clown from the New York Times named A.G. Sulzenberger.
So I think if you look at this question of disinformation, I think it maps basically to every other major challenge that we are grappling with as a society, and particularly the most existential among them. So disinformation and the broader set of misinformation, conspiracy, propaganda, clickbait, the broader mix of bad information that's corrupting the information ecosystem. What it attacks is trust. And once you see trust decline, what you then see is societies start to fracture. And so you see people fracture along tribal lines, and that immediately undermines pluralism. Mm-hmm. And the undermining of pluralism is probably the most dangerous thing that can happen to a democracy. So I think if you're spending this week thinking about the health of democracies and democratic erosion, I think it's really important to work your way back up to where this starts.
Well, that is kind of true. The mainstream media is in an existential crisis, a credibility crisis, losing half of their audience and having to do massive layoffs. CNN Plus shutting down their entire division after just 3 weeks. Last year, I thought about buying a custom-made Brian Stelter puppet, which you can order on the internet, and then bringing it to a city council meeting and trolling them as little Brian. But the custom puppets that I found online are literally hundreds of dollars, so I just kind of threw that idea away. But great minds think alike, and it looks like Alex Jones bought one instead.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Stelter.
I would say thank you for having me on, but since I've been working tirelessly for years with big tech to take you and other dangerous disinformation operatives off the web, I just wanted to let you know that finally I'm in a place where I can get things done.
Speaking of comedy, CNN is talking about hiring a comedian to host one of their primetime shows on the network. And since they are a joke, why not? Apple previously hired former comedian Jon Stewart for a show. not to do a comedy show, just more cultural Marxist propaganda. So CNN might be that desperate to try to stop hemorrhaging viewers. Maybe they'll follow in Apple's footsteps and hire Trevor Noah or some other Comedy Central reject. Oh, and I almost forgot, also at the World Economic Forum, Joe Biden's climate czar, John Kerry, who's a member of Skull and Bones, by the way, showed up to pat himself on the back for working so hard to save the world.
And when you stop and think about it, it's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial to think about, quote, saving the planet. And if you said that to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder, whatever, and there's no relationship. But really, that's where we are.
And we're so thankful for all of you who fly private jets and live in your 10,000 square foot homes to lecture us little people about what we should be doing to lower our carbon footprints. A lot of people were talking about the World Economic Forum yesterday, which might have been why the hashtag Alex Jones was right was trending on Twitter. But still, sadly, hardly anybody, and I guess really nobody in the inner circle of conservative mainstream media has yet to address the Bilderberg Group, and certainly not the Bohemian Grove, because they're too afraid of being called a conspiracy theorist by the liberal media industrial complex. So they just stick to safe pop culture political issues instead. But if you like my reporting and analysis, sponsor me this year on Patreon for $5 or $10 a month by clicking the link in the description below or going to my Patreon page at patreon.com/markdice. Think of it like tipping your bartender or waiter for good service. If you're getting quality information and entertainment here, then sponsor me for just a few bucks a month through my Patreon by clicking the link in the description below. And that way, hopefully, I won't have to start taking on various sponsors like virtually every other YouTuber and interrupting the video 10 seconds into it for a 90-second spiel about various products and services. So head on over to patreon.com/markdice or click the link in the description below and check it out.